Why did Yoda send Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan to kill Darth Maul? Something that seems to raise a lot of questions is in regards to why they sent these two, and only these two, to fight the first Sith Lord in over 1,000 years. If we remember, Qui-Gon reveals his experience with the Sith on Tatooine, who revealed himself for the first time to the Jedi at that point. It was this that made Jinn tell the Council, who told them that they'd use all their resources to unravel this mystery and they'd discover the identity of his attacker immediately. However, they knew very well that the Sith had returned, or at least according to this new information, were back in some sort of way. So why did they send a Jedi Master and his low-level Padawan, Obi-Wan at the time, to face the threat? Well, the answer is that they had no clue the Sith Lord would even show up there. The connection between the Trade Federation blockade on Naboo and the Sith's dealings were unconnected and unknown at the time. Had they known that Darth Maul would have shown up at the freighter, I'm sure they would have taken more Jedi Masters. That said, at the time, there were only about 10,000 Jedi in the entire galaxy, and each one was immensely busy with their own affairs and missions. The faith that a master and his apprentice could handle such a task was obviously overconfidence at its best. The Council felt Master Qui-Gon, while not being on the Council due to his strayed perception of the Force in comparison to his Jedi acquaintances, was knowledgeable enough and capable enough to handle the Trade Federation negotiations, much less a Sith Lord, which he was trained to defeat. They had faith that he'd call for backup if a Sith Lord were to present itself on Naboo or anywhere. However, everything on the battlefield happened far too fast, and in the end, as Qui-Gon always preaches, it was the will of the Force that he died. For if he didn't, he never would have become a Force ghost, and in turn taught his knowledge to Yoda at the end of Revenge of the Sith, who taught it to Obi-Wan, who helped Luke in many situations in the afterlife, and then, of course, caused Luke to die at the end of The Last Jedi. So it all pretty much goes back to Darth Maul killing Qui-Gon Jinn. Now, Qui-Gon learned this ability from the Shaman of the Wills themselves, however, that's another video for a different time, and I've covered it many times before. Now, my opinion on this matter is that the Council knew the battle on Naboo was a big one, and the possibility of the Sith Lord making an appearance was definitely there, so they should have put 2 more Jedi Masters or a Jedi Master and their apprentice at least to accompany Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan to lead the battle. That way, Maul would have died, Qui-Gon would have lived and trained Anakin, who most likely wouldn't have turned to the dark side with Jinn's proper teaching, as I always felt like Obi-Wan was more of like a brother and not really so ready to fulfill the task of training someone like Anakin, who already had so many attachments when he started to become a Jedi. The galaxy would have looked much different today, however, as Master Qui-Gon says, it was the will of the Force.